Hello, everyone, and welcome to another live episode of Let's Talk America with host Shana Thornton. Of course, I am Shana, and I'm super excited to be on with you as host tonight and also as executive producer of this award-winning broadcast. Well, we bring the best and the brightest, and we highlight the latest trending topics. And tonight is no exception, of course. And I have the one and only. She is a licensed and acclaimed nutritionist and dietitian, Meridan Zerner. Meridan, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Shana. Thank you for having me. Let's talk.
Let's talk about it. Now, one of the traditions, Meridan, that we have here on Let's Talk America Radio is that we ask each of our exclusive guests to just really give us a practical human approach to what got you here. And when I say that, 2 minutes or less. I've read your resume, your CV. It's super amazing. All the accolades, you deserve it. But the personal side of this, Meridan, what got you here? What made you so passionate about what we're going to talk about tonight? And that's nutrition for the average American. And that's not always an easy topic to take on. Is there a personal journey behind your professional journey?
For 30 years, I've been invested in the field of wellness and have had the privilege to work with people and to see how with a few small changes in either the foods that they're choosing, the quality of their sleep, maybe they're moving more, maybe we're really helping them manage their stress a little bit better. I'm able to see people use less medicine or go off medicine and really live this greater quantity and quality of life. So honestly, it's been witnessing the health and well-being of the people around me, my clients, my family, just flourish, really the difference between surviving and thriving. And that is why I do what I do.
I love that. I mean, because there always has to be a reason and a motivation behind it. Let's talk about the P word you brought up, people. There are many people watching us right now, or watching us live or on demand, and they're saying, I hear this acclaimed nutritionist, this licensed dietitian. I know she's going to tell me all the things I probably don't want to hear. I've heard it all before. I've tried it all before, and I have failed at it. Meridan, the question of the hour, the money question, as they say, is a simple one. Why do we fail horribly at diets? And I don't want to say diets, in the sense of a yo-yo dieting, try this real quick and drop the 15 pounds for the wedding or the big event. But I'm asking you in terms of even the lifestyle, even what we're eating daily, we're putting in our mouth, how we eat low carbs, high fat, lots of sugar. Why do we fail at achieving the healthy state? And I'm saying that not being a medical provider or expert like you, but I have so many family, friends, knowing just real people, real talk. Many people fail at it. What's the biggest psychological reason, in your opinion, of why? Why can we stick with it for 2 weeks and we fail later?
So, I actually think that there's pretty good behavioral science to this now. And honestly, we didn't really look at the behavioral science for the longest time. It was just here, let me hand you this, 1,200 calorie diet, good luck, go, without really meeting people where they are. And I heard you use the word fail. The realities are that folks haven't failed diets. The diets have failed them. In terms of looking at the science of nutrition, the science of metabolism, we can really better identify not only a dietary plan that makes sense for the individual, we want to meet them where they are, but we also look at human beings don't change well radically. And so we want to look at one behavioral change at a time. We have an 80% likelihood of maintaining that new behavior or habit when we really tackle things one behavior at a time. We want it to be specific and measurable. So a lot of this is psychology of change. And that isn't often, or wasn't often, a piece of a nutrition plan. And really now we know that needs to be front and center in the nutrition plan. It needs to be client-centered. I need you to tell me, hey, what can you do? And how can we maximize the fact that you might be eating late, you might have to microwave, you might have to drive through. How do we drive through better? And that's really an evolution in my field and how hopefully doctors and nurses and dietitians are working with people. So truly, you haven't failed, your family member hasn't failed. It's truly that the setup prior to. And you understand when we even look at the environment around us. Well, I used to be able to go to the home goods store or the tool store with my dad, and you would get tools. It was the most boring errand ever. Well, now you can go to to the tool shop or the garden shop and you can get a hot dog and you can get a candy bar. And so it's everywhere. And as human beings, we are hardwired to eat. We're hardwired for sweet and savory. That's just chemistry. So instead of getting frustrated about that, we really want to look at, hey, it is what it is. How do we better manage it?
Yeah. I mean, you bring such great points up. And one of the things you talked about people eating late, I want to talk about that because real life, right? Real people, majority of Americans, especially under a certain age of 60 years old, are working. Many of those same individuals have children, or they have significant others, or partners, husbands, wives. They have parents they may be caring for, a sibling they may be caring for. So they don't always have all the time in the world to make fresh, organic recipes, right? I mean, which tend to be healthier. Even when we talk about eating fresh, we know there's been a lot of awareness and highlights brought on talking about food deserts, right? Certain communities not having the same options as others. These things are real. And even if your intention, Meridan, let's read real again, real talk for real people. Even if my intention is to eat healthy for myself and my kids, when you're picking them up from the babysitter, you're trying to get them home to do the homework, it's like, what's quick, what's easy, ding, not making fun or coming down hard on fast food. But we all know now, let's be honest, it's reasonably priced for a lot of Americans, and it's quick, and your kid is hungry. You've got to work with them on homework. You've got to put them to bed to do all this again the next day. So you understand, and I don't want to be the advocate for bad living. Don't get me wrong, because I'm all professionally and personally for what you're advocating. But there seem to be so many real life factors that I think a lot of experts and advocates haven't always covered. And I'm glad to see you bring those up, talking about the behavior science of it, because I think you're right. Maybe the diet has failed us, but I also think whatever's put out there isn't taking into account that real people have other obstacles and have other obligations.
Right. Absolutely. You use the word in terms the things that kind of needing to, the reality is that things need to be a little bit easier, maybe a little bit more convenient. And so I think that's big. And so if somebody is going through the drive-through, I'm going to say, all right, let's work through what's our best option there. And can you get the fruit cup for you and for your kids? And then can you role model that? So then your kids see, hey, this is where we're really balancing out this meal with a really hyper quality little fruit cup. That is why even in my own family, and I've got 2 teenagers, I'm trying to pull in what I call stealth help. I'm trying to put in, an extra tomato in something. I want to put in a greens powder. I'll mix that into like a smoothie for them. There are really quick and easy ways. So it doesn't have to be this, as you said, like this really involved cook from scratch organic meal at home.
Yeah. And thank you so much, Mia, because we want to talk about some practical approaches. And I know you've got some items right there and some recipes you're going to share with us that do keep it healthy and quick. So you're taking in that working mom, that working dad, that working grandmother that may have to take care of those kids. You're keeping that in mind, which is so, so key. I know I'm speaking to a dietitian and nutritionist, and I've asked this tough question of even the exercise advocates, the top celebrity trainers. And I say, if it's food versus exercise, who wins? And believe it or not, Meridan, what I've often found is that they have all said, the food part is more important. They're saying, if you're talking about weight, and they say, and that's hard for people to believe a celebrity trainer would say that, but they're saying, you can't work off a bad diet. They're like, all the marathons in the world won't do it. And even with that, I know people who will stay in the gym. They'll go out and walk 2 or 3 miles 2 or 3 times a week. But for some reason, Meridan, and you look, we both live in the United States, in particular the South part of it, when it comes to the honey buns, when it comes to the croissants, when it comes to those other type treats, they're not pushing away from it. And they say, well, I'm going to work out in the gym tomorrow morning, so I'm good. So help us out with that concept of those who love the exercise and the physical part, but the food part where they're not so convinced of that.
So I want you to keep on moving and getting that walk in and heading to the gym or whatever you have time for, because I want to utilize that as a tool to better manage your stress, to better manage your blood sugar if you have prediabetes or diabetes, which is quite a few folks in these United States. I want you to utilize that movement as a stress management tool, but you spend 30 minutes on the treadmill or 30 minutes outside walking, that's probably 300 calories, and that might be 3 to 4 bites of food, which is why I think a lot of trainers are going to say, hey, you can eat right through that. The other thing I really look at, though, is when somebody is choosing the sticky bun or whatever that delicious, tempting food is that called their name and lured them in, we're missing out on these really essential nutrients, all of the superfoods that are going to help eyes, that are going to help heart health, that are going to help manage blood sugar. And so my challenge is, and my invitation to everyone is, hey, how do we get this job done? The sticky buns are going to be there, but how do we balance that equation?
Yeah. And that's such an important part of balancing that equation. And thank you so much, even though you're a nutritionist and a dietitian, in other words, what I call a food expert, you are certainly advocating and promoting that people do need to start getting moving and staying moving. You're right, because you're saying even when they're diabetic and other parts that we know it's heart health that's involved in it, but it's not a freeing rein to say, I can do what I want. I can have all these drinks. I can do all these things because I'm working out. You're right. It's that balance that's important. I want you to share some great recipes and food options. I know I see such a beautiful display behind you. Before we do that, you did mention diabetes and prediabetes, something that's so rampant right now in the United States. I saw recent information that medical providers and experts are concerned that it may even be more emerging out of the pandemic, as many Americans have put on unwanted, unnecessary weight. We all know there's a correlation there, not always, but there's a strong one for many, many people, especially have the genetic disposition for diabetes or prediabetes. But when it comes to food of it, there's so many different things you hear about trying to lower your chances of diabetes. From your take on it as a dietitian, you've worked with so many different patients, you know a lot about diabetes and its connection and its partnership, if you will, with food. What's the most important thing for someone who right now has already been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes for them to keep in mind when it comes to their diet?
Well, I think for those with diabetes, to really recognize too, obviously a little bit of weight loss is going to help substantially. And whether it's 3 pounds or 5 pounds or 10 pounds or wherever we're going with that, that's going to be big. I would tap an expert. I would tap a dietitian. There are going to be programs that can help someone better understand carbohydrates, which is the driver of blood sugar. And then in addition, to really look at there are better quality carbohydrates. And so, you know, I'm going to always say, go green. How can you incorporate more green things? How can you incorporate what spinach, kale, mustard greens, broccoli, asparagus, the things you may see behind me. And if you think, you know, I may not do as much of that as I know I need to, then I'm going to say, hey, let's get you a good greens powder that you can mix into some of the things that you enjoy eating. Again, we just want to get the job done. And I would tell my patients, I tell my clients, I like Kyo greens as a powder just because it mixes in so well to some recipes. But it is about getting the greens, getting the vitamin K, getting the B vitamins, the calcium, all the things that you're going to get. And only 1 out of 10 Americans is getting in enough vegetables, period.
Yes.
So that's our focal point is how can we help you get there and then be creative about getting these superfoods into your diet because you may be busy. How do we enhance that drive-through meal if we need to?
Yeah. And it's so important. I want to bring this up because so many times people talk about calories. And you know that when people are talking about weight loss, they're saying, well, go under this amount, you can lose the weight. But would you advocate, yes, maybe cut the calories, especially like you're saying, if diabetes, or we know there's so much connected to extra weight, excessive weight, inflammation. But when you're cutting the calories, making sure that you're getting a lot of the calories from the right nutrients so you can get the vitamin K that you mentioned and the other vitamins, is that key? Because some people will cut it and say, well, I'm cutting it, but I'm only eating this. But it sounds like you're saying, let's have a balanced diet. So we're getting the super greens, and we know super greens have such great power to them where they're helping fight all sort of diseases off.
Oh, yes. You know, in the world of the greens, if you know, some folks may be putting a little piece of iceberg lettuce on their burger, but when you think about, hey, what could I get in a wheatgrass or a chlorella or a cowpea or the dandelion greens? And so how do we get those, right? And yes, of course, I want you to order more spinach salads. I want you to have, utilize your freezer to have frozen green foods that you can quickly microwave. And then truly take advantage of these really delicious green strengths and green powders. Naturally sourced, you're going to find these nutrient dense, and my favorite word is really therapeutic. There are therapeutic health benefits to be had in the deep, dark greens, the deep, dark oranges and reds. Like, I would challenge anybody if they could even find 1 or 2 more opportunities in their day. Maybe they could mix the greens powder into their a smoothie or a shake, or maybe they would consider putting it into a salad dressing. We're going to get better nutrition. We're going to get the nutrients, the phytonutrients, the plant nutrients that are going to help lower inflammation. So I think the conversation these days is very much about inflammation. Well, how do we do that? And it's going to be through these deep, dark greens.
I love that. Such deep, dark greens. For those who may say, well, I don't need a powder, Meridan, give me what I need. What are some that's at the top of your list that gives you so many, it packs in the nutrients that really help us? Is there anything that comes to mind? Is it spinach?
Oh gosh, the list for greens and superfoods is long and amazing and all delicious. You know, of course, the greens are typically right at the top, and it's going to be the chard, and it's the spinach and the kale, mustard greens, dandelion greens. I really want to check in with people though, because often they're just not eating them. It's like, we know, but then it's just not happening. So if you will consume more of those, fantastic. Have a plan B though. And if a plan B or even part of your plan A is, hey, I'm going to tap that greens powder either in capsule form or in powder form, get it down. Most folks aren't actively going out and getting the real powerhouses, the wheatgrass, the barley grass, spirulina, the chlorella. You know, these are the ones that are going to give you so much more.
Yeah.
That's why I've chosen, I use Kyo Greens with my family and my clients, just because I've looked at the label.
Okay.
And they're not all the same. So I always encourage you to look at the label.
Okay.
It doesn't have any artificial, colors or flavors, one that doesn't have any added sugars, one that's GMO free. I mean, being very conscientious about what you're putting in your body. I love the taste of this one, even just straight up. And so again, I would encourage you to really look at the label to find one that's going to give you all of the good stuff and none of the other.
Yeah. And that's so important. And thank you for sharing that, because you're right. No matter how much we intend to do it, right? We get into the grocery stores, we get busy and it doesn't happen. Quick question before you talk about the amazing, beautifully laid out foods behind you. When it comes to people wanting to eat veggies, you know, many people don't really find much long-term use out of fresh food, unfortunately, because it, you know, obviously you can try to freeze it, but it doesn't stay around as much as canned food. I know you talk about eating some super greens. A lot of the super greens you mentioned often come in canned good forms. What is your take on that? Because often dietitians and nutritionists don't really talk about that. And I've seen on the media programs, they talk about getting the super greens in you. What's your take on it?
You know, it's interesting. I just looked up a clinical research study that indicated the number one reason why people don't do as much with their fruits and vegetables is because they said, hey, they go bad pretty quickly. Guess what doesn't go bad? A greens powder. Now, in the meantime, I would absolutely give you full license and invitation to utilize the frozen veggies, sometimes even have more nutrients, right? A canned veggie, it's still a veggie. Now, sometimes we can rinse whatever that veggie is in the can and lower the sodium by about 30 to 40% there. But that is such a win across the board, right? So any colorful fruit or vegetable that you're able to take in bumps up your health and well-being, helps bolster your immune system. I mean, that's what these deep dark greens are really doing for us. And I think everybody has seen that over the course of the past year and a half, immune system really matters.
Yes, it does. So thank you for sharing that. So no need to feel guilty if you're doing some of the canned veggies you're saying, but you're saying if it's possible to rinse off perhaps some of the sodium or other seasoning that's placed on it, that's probably ideal.
Yeah. And then you're in charge of it, you know, adding your own seasoning. You know, with the more flavor, typically we tend to get this flavor satisfaction. We might eat a little bit less as a volume, but it is going to be about the flavor, but I want you to add your own flavor.
Nice. I love that. Meridan Zerner is on with us. She is an acclaimed award-winning nutritionist and dietitian. She's putting the spotlight on tasty and healthy foods for us. So she's saying, hey, you say you have no time for veggies? Well, she's giving us options. Okay, that's what a dietitian is going to do. They're not going to take no for an answer and say, I just don't have the time. And speaking of time, before we get out of here, I certainly want you to highlight the beautiful food you have behind you. It looks yummy. I think I even see something that resembles a dessert. Talk to me about it, Meridan.
Ooh, should we start with that? Pretty much everything that I have to show you today, I've incorporated some greens powder. And again, why? I want to make sure that you get these deep dark greens. And I just want to show you quickly, you could absolutely enjoy a little bit of greens powder just mixed into water, right? And that's just going to not only hydrate you, but kind of get you started really quickly. And now I've got all of these amazing phytonutrients that come from the wheatgrass and the barley grass. So that could be just a quick sip, or you could choose to include them in my nut butter bites. And so I made cocoa powder, like it's almost like a no-bake, a bit of a cookie really, but it's incredibly healthy. And you know, my kids will go for this. You can put more cocoa powder, less cocoa powder. There's a lot of flexibility in my nut butter green bites, but I put that same greens powder inside of it.
I love it. It's tasty.
My kids will always take a smoothie. So I made a superhero smoothie, and you know, if you can't tell that there's greens in there.
No.
And it's delicious. And so I've used a frozen banana. I've used a little bit of the Kyo greens powder. Okay. I've typically I'll maybe put in some either milk or like an almond milk because I want to bump up the calcium for my kids. Yes. You know, add a cute little strawberry topper and you've got a greens rich, nutrient rich chocolate shake.
Nice. That looks tasty too.
Summertime, we want fresh, we want easy. And so, gosh, I might put the Kyo greens powder in my guac.
Okay, nice.
Take the store-bought guac that's already done and just mix a little greens powder to really pump up the nutrition, to pump up the energy, to pump up all of the bioavailable powerhouse nutrition that you're getting in these greens. And I might say, hey, I know we can do dipping with chips, but you could dip with a carrot. You could also do more of like a whole grain cracker. So being creative, this could be a spread too.
Nice. It looks tasty.
Put some fresh tomatoes, maybe a whole grain slice of bread, little guac with greens powder.
Yummy, yummy. I love that. That all looked delicious. And it doesn't sound like it takes much time either, Meridan, to get done.
As fast as you saw me stir up that drink was about as quickly as it took to make up some of these recipes. Of course, the little cookie bites, you have to just do a little bit of mixing and rolling into a ball, but oh my gosh, 10 minutes tops. And you can feel good about, hey, they got a sweet little something. They've got a hydrating little something. They've got a delicious green inclusion, a greens inclusion.
I love it. All about greens inclusion. Quick question before you get out of here. Smoothies are super popular throughout the United States. You know, there are lots of smoothie cafes that are popped up. They do quite well. But anything we need to be very cautious of when we're talking about going to get a smoothie, because you look at the calorie list and some of them can pack on the calories pretty quick. I guess that probably is taking into account how much sugar is going into it. What would you suggest if we're going to go out and buy a smoothie?
Yes. Well, and again, I'm a label reader, so I'm always going to be looking, like I said, with the Kyo greens, I'm looking, doesn't have any added sugar, doesn't have any added artificial colors or flavors. Yes. While you can't necessarily look at the label when you're going out to buy a smoothie, they are going to provide that information on the website. They may even have it in store. So just being mindful of, hey, what are all those added ingredients and how can with this sort of cleaner, choice that may just have actual real fruit, that may just have actual greens thrown in, if that's the direction that you would like to go, which I would encourage you to try something new. It's great, refreshing green drink this summer. But asking questions of even the folks in the shop to say, hey, what exactly, what is in that sort of a creamy yogurt-like fluid that you're putting in there? Like, I want to know because I care about what's going in my body. I care about what's going in your body.
I love it. So just don't assume I got a smoothie because they're all not created equal. We know that, and some of the sugar content may be different, especially those that are battling on the verge of diabetes or pre-diabetes. So certainly be very mindful. Last question. It's an important one. I had a food expert on several years ago. She talked about the emergence and popularity of being a vegetarian, but she said being a vegetarian came with some different things. Talk to us about how important it is to watch the sugar intake or carb intake as you become a vegetarian.
So I think the bigger deal, of course, is that the diet as a whole, right? We're talking about dietary pattern as a whole. We're talking about plant-based diets that have the most research. And while that doesn't have to mean vegetarian or vegan, it could look like that. But we look at the Mediterranean diet, we look at some of the other anti-inflammatory style diets. And yes, they're going to have more beans, but also more fruits and veggies. For those with diabetes, we still have to be mindful of carbohydrate. Again, I'm always going to go greens because they're going to be very low in carb, high in fiber. And that Kyo greens, by the way, also has some fiber in it, which is going to help balance our blood sugar. And so again, I'm kind of looking at a win-win-win. We've got green, we've got fiber, we've got phytonutrients. And so, you know, when we're thinking about a dietary change, you could move in that direction, which is plant-based, as opposed to feeling like you needed to go complete and total vegan or vegetarian.
And that's so key. And I think what you're saying as well is the super greens, make sure we load up on veggies, but not saying we're vegetarian, but we're still eating a lot of chips, right? Because I've been told by many food experts that, yes, you do want to cut some of the meat, be mindful of it, but you shouldn't be trading out meat for foods high in
processed
sugar.
Right. Low quality processed carbs, which right now is like 60% of our diet.
Yes.
Look at some of these simple and easy ways. If you wanted some of those recipes, and I have a lot more, you can go to kyo-green.com. You can go to my Facebook page. Like, you know, some of these tips and tricks, if you will, are available out there. And in a way, it's stealth health. We really do want to make it a little bit easier for everyone.
Yeah, I love that. Stealth health, which is so important to carry us long-term. Super greens, such a real practical conversation. The one and only licensed dietitian and nutritionist, Meridan Zerner. She is out of Texas. So excited to have you on tonight. So much good information that's going to carry us through. Oh, I love it. I love your passion to get us healthy as well. And that you really painted a picture that food is not the enemy and eating healthy is not impossible. So that's so key when we want to reach as many people as possible. Meridan, before you get out of here, remind us again of your website. I know you mentioned your Facebook page, but for those that are watching us, if they want to connect with you later for more information or some of those recipes on the food items you showed us that looked really tasty.
Thank you. That would be kyo-green.com, or I'm all at Meridan Zerner for Twitter and Insta and my Facebook page.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. Real talk, real people. Thank you everyone for watching another episode of Let's Talk America Radio video here on Facebook Live. We ask you to share this on your page or tag a family member or friend who you love and care about. We each are on a journey. We may not always be as active about our health as we should be, but may we never forget that our bodies need to be as healthy as possible. The world is emerging right, Meridan, out of course, COVID-19. We know there was an affiliation or connection with inflammation and COVID. COVID is not over. We also know that as well. So we certainly want to keep the inflammation down. Those super greens will help and keep our weight at the ideal level as well, right? Because we want us all to take confidence and pride in who we are as people, but we also want to be the best version of ourselves, right, Meridan? That's certainly fair to say.
And offer yourself a little grace. Remember, one step at a time, one behavioral change at a time. Anything that you can include that's green is going to be good things for you.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you. Meridan Zerner, the only one joining us here on Let's Talk America Radio. We're going to have you back on for more real talk as we go into the holiday season. But first, let's emerge out of this and drop that freshman 25 or 30.
Yes, the COVID 20.
We can do it. I believe it. So you have us. Well,
I believe we can too.
We're going to check back in to see if that's happening.
Okay.
Thank you, Meridan. Everyone, thanks for watching again. For more information, visit ltaradio.com. Again, more information on our award-winning broadcast program, visit ltaradio.com. You're watching us on Facebook Live, so like our page, tell others to as well. We're out there on Instagram and YouTube too. Take care, everyone, and stay safe and stay healthy. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Meridan. You were awesome.
Take care.